Once you've set out all of the strings and you're happy with where they are, then you can start digging the holes. The width and depth really depends on how solid your ground is. I started with creating 200mm holes with a petrol earth auger, which unfortunately was faulty and broke early on, so I had to dig them by hand, which took a lot longer. Initially, I didn't have a post digger to remove the earth from the hole, so was doing that by hand too. But it's definitely well worth purchasing one because it massively sped up the process. Also, just to mention that the earth augers are absolutely lethal if you're not used to them. If they catch on a rock, a thick root, or some wire or something like that, the torque snapping around can easily break your wrist. It whips round violently, and when the auger is in quite deep, it smashes your shins too. For a bit of protection, I used some kickboxing wrist wraps and a shin guard, which made it better, but my garden was like a building materials graveyard, so it was catching on things all the time. In the end, I found starting with the smallest 100mm bit and then moving up to a 150 and then the full 200mm made the process a lot safer, and also just let it ease its way down at its own pace so it slowly smashes any rocks or roots. Don't try and push it down too much, or it'll catch, and you won't be very happy. The garden was a bit of a nightmare because it was full of buried rubble, paving slabs, bits of car, you name it, it was buried there. And all had to be dug out so that the holes were deep enough. Each hole was around 700mm deep, and there were 34 holes, spaced roughly 1.2 meters apart.
I saw some other videos on YouTube showing foundations made from a threaded bar and 100mm square steel plates. There are some great video tutorials I followed, but unfortunately building control weren't happy with them and wanted something more substantial, so I upgraded to some additional 250mm square steel plates, 10mm thick, to be set into the concrete 50mm from the lower end of the threaded bar, and used A4 grade stainless steel nuts to lock them in place, while still keeping the square 100mm by 10mm plates halfway up the threaded bar. I also used the same square 100mm by 10mm plates for the supports that the timber beams would sit on, but I noticed an issue with this design that was used in some other videos for building garden rooms. The problem was that the plates have a square hole and are being threaded onto a round bar, which means that the load transfer from the nuts to the plate wasn't very effective or good. I then added some 50mm by 5mm galvanized steel washers, which spread the load better and actually halved the force transferring through the steel nuts per square centimetre, meaning that they could take twice as much load with just that simple design change. The plates also aren't galvanized, so they would rust when exposed for a long period to the moist outdoor air, so I painted them with bitumen paint to reduce this and help prevent them corroding. Two very quick and simple design changes that may substantially increase the life of the foundations. The 250mm steel plates came pre-drilled, but the hole wasn't big enough for the threaded bars, so I drilled them out with a DeWalt step drill bit, which worked pretty well. I first tried a cobalt bit, but it literally took me half an hour to drill one plate, but with the step bit it took a couple of minutes.